Well, hello, everybody. I'm Julieann Hartman, and welcome to the Unpopular Mom. I am an unpopular mom. Were you an unpopular mom, Joe?
Yeah, sure.
Well, we are moms, and we have adult children, of course, and she's even a grandma, and so that's way past me. We're probably getting there soon with our daughter Carly, but not yet. And the whole reason behind this Unpopular Mom series is because this is what the Lord has given me to do, to empower moms and dads, not just moms, but moms and dads, to hear from the Holy Spirit on how they should raise kids and not go with the flow, because it's very easy to do that, especially in the day that we're living in now, where for some reason public schools are now foster cares. They're not, but they're trying to be. And that's so weird to me. But anyway, that's on another show. I will vent about that. But today we're going to talk to Jill LeBlanc, because she was obviously a mother of 3, and they homeschooled.
We did some homeschooling.
Okay.
So my husband and I have been in traveling ministry since our son was a newborn. He was our 3rd child.
Okay.
And at 5 weeks old, we had just left being on church staff for a couple of years, 3 years, leading worship at a church. And we just had recorded our first album, and we just Charlie felt a real clear word from the Lord that we should start going out, leave staff, and just start traveling. We had a lot of friends with churches because we had all just kind of graduated from Bible college at the same time, and most of them went out to start churches. So we had all these contacts around the nation, and then we had also started working with Andrew Wommack at that time. So we had all those contacts. So we started traveling. So our children were 5, 3, and newborn.
Okay, so that for the 2 girls, you guys were home.
Mostly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right.
They were real involved at our church in the youth group, and our church had a school. So they went to that school.
Oh, okay.
And that's where their friend base was and all that.
So, well, now that was a very different that now, okay, we're going to travel and I have a little baby.
Yeah.
How old were you back then at this time?
Let's see. I guess I was 27, I think, when Bo was born.
Okay.
Right.
So, you know what? You're still young. You're not really set in your ways. And you can adjust a lot easier, I think, when you're younger like that.
Oh, gosh, we did things that I would never do today.
So was that just a little freaky for you to be like, oh, my God, we're going on the road? Or like, yes, we're going on the road.
Yeah, man, I was all in. It was going to be exciting. There was a ministry, a kids ministry earlier on called Super Gang.
Mm-hmm.
And one of their albums was called On the Road for Jesus. And so we were just going on the road for Jesus, and it was a lot. It was great. It, had its things that I look back on now, like I said, thinking, what was I thinking? I would never do that today. But it was great. God's grace was on us. I mean, it was great just in general.
Right.
But there were definitely challenges.
So if you can maybe go into some of those challenges, only because there's a lot of course, a lot of people have been called to the nations and called for, just being a missionary.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes maybe it's not for now.
Right.
That's been me. When I became a Christian, I was like, okay, God, you said this, I'm starting today. And it was like, no, it's not today, Julieann. Like, he gave me this whole Unpopular Mom 5 years ago, but I knew it wasn't I thought it was, and I tried to put my toe in it. And he was like, no, I gave you the idea. I want you to work on it. Mm. And it wasn't ready for, like I said, about 5 years. And so we just want to be obedient, right?
Right.
So what are some of the things that you wish that, you would have known or you would have done differently in doing that? And also I want to make sure that people we're not saying do not travel and homeschool your kids. Right. We're not saying that at all. But maybe Jill can offer you some really great information and some tips on what to do and what not to do.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Back when we were all getting turned on to the Lord as teenagers, when I say we, I mean, Charlie and myself and all of our friends. Right. We were from this radical Jesus freak church, and we just all had calls to the nations. We were going to go out and do exploits for Jesus, and so different ones started getting married and started even having kids, and we were all like, kids are portable. They'll go anywhere. They don't care as long as we take care of them. It'll be great, and we'll just nurture them as we go. Well, yes, but it comes with a lot of, I don't want to say baggage, but you just really have to know that you're being led by the Lord in how you do things. I look back and think, gosh, I wish I could do some of it over again. Like, for instance, we didn't put our kids off on like sitters and things, but there were some times that we had to do that. I remember we landed at one church of a friend of ours, and we had our 3 little kids running all around the church as we're there 2 hours early to set up our stuff for the service that night. Mm-hmm. And our friend said, gosh, I wish you would have told me you had your kids coming. We could have arranged to have childcare for you when you got here. And I'm like, oh, sorry. Yeah, that would have been a great idea. I just didn't think all the time. We kind of just did and showed up. And but our kids were they hadn't really started school yet when we first started, because the 2 girls, like I said, were 5 and 3. Right. So we hadn't really officially started, maybe just a little bit of preschool stuff. And a lot of that we just would say, hey, let's just get workbooks and do in the car. Mm-hmm. And it was fine. But our church had a school that they went to when we were home. And so then we would take curriculum once they were a little older with us on the road. And so I was the one that would have to work with them. And, I wasn't just like, and I don't mean to sound demeaning or anything like this. I wasn't just the wife in the situation and mother. I also had a calling to minister. We minister together, Charlie and I. And so, sometimes we just said, okay, kids, here's some stuff to do while we do this, and right. And I kind of look back and wish that I could do some of that over and just be more intentional about raising my kids instead of just letting them just grow up with all the flurry of how our life was. And
do you feel that more now because you're a grandma? Do you think that has that had anything to do with that of like, oh, wow, because you didn't live that life of like, well, daddy goes to work, we start our mornings off at whatever, 8 a.m. and the kids go to school, dad goes to work, we come home and we have dinner together and we do it again the next day.
Yeah, I don't think the grandkids really played into that. And because I've had these thoughts for many years, wishing that I could have just been more intentional on my parenting rather than just doing the parenting because kids are
like
there.
A babysitter.
Yeah.
Almost like a babysitter.
Yeah. Well, eventually we did hire some young women to travel with us and to teach the kids when the schooling became a little more serious, and then to also help when we're at a church setting up and ministering in the services. And that was a huge blessing. And we always had really wonderful, most of them were really wonderful, just young women of God that had a gift for teaching kids. So that was a blessing.
So what did you do? So they gave you workbooks from the school? Like, how did you?
Yeah, they were great. They would set us up we would tell them how long we'd be gone, and they would look at their lesson plans and make photocopies of their lesson plans for us and give us all the books to take with us so that they could work on our long car rides. Sometimes we would drive for, all day long to get to somewhere. Sometimes it was a 2-day drive. Right. And so we had a lot of time in the car to work on lessons. And at that time we had a big van and pulled an equipment trailer. So there was, space in the van for all of our stuff. And, we even put bicycles in the equipment trailer and skates and just things for the kids so that they could have a little bit of a life wherever we went. But yeah, so we would do a lot on our travels. And then when we get to where we were going, it just kind of depended on the schedule, how we would manage the teaching. But once we did hire the girls to help, that was such a blessing. And then when the kids got older, and the two girls were in high school and Bo was in junior high, we put them in school, and public school. Well, actually, because of all of our homeschooling, even though we were working with an accredited organization, when it gets to high school, it was different, and the schools were not recognizing all of the credits from this Christian homeschool organization. So they were going to go to public school, and I think they both ended up going to public school for 1 year, but then they ended up going back to the Christian school that they grew up going to, just so they could graduate and not have to, spend extra years catching up on credits. So, so they didn't have a lot of public school experience, which, of course, this was 25 years ago.
A long time ago.
Yeah. But it was enough to start affecting them in different ways.
So you said that there's some things you would have changed. What would have been like, give me like your top 3 things you would have changed.
I would have probably tried to just back off on some of the ministry myself. Okay. Seeing this as a ministry, sewing into my kids. And I was an unpopular mom quite a bit because we were pretty strict parents, and we didn't allow a lot of worldly influence into our home, which made us very unpopular at times. But, we just wanted Jesus to be first, and we wanted our kids to, we grew up in and I say grew up, but from the time we were in our teens, mid to late teens, we were both just so passionate for Jesus because, it was just that outpouring of the Jesus movement was so real and so life changing. Yeah. And we just thought that our kids would grow up into that because we continued with our passion for the Lord all those years as they were growing up, but it didn't always. I like what Andrew Wommack says. He said, God doesn't have grandchildren. Right. He says, every one of our kids have to have their own personal relationship with him. And I wish now that I would have fostered that more and not just expected them to pick it up by osmosis.
That's so good, because I think that we don't, well, for me, like I got saved so much later in life. I didn't know how to foster. I just knew how to, with whatever was going on in the house, we'd say, girls, we're just going to pray over this. And we're going to let that God that everybody keeps telling us about, it supplies all the need. Like, we're going to let him do it. So what was your, like, when you're saying you would foster it more, what would that mean to you?
Well, then I would probably, I'm going to let out some dirty laundry here. No, it's not bad. I mean, it is bad, but it's not what you're thinking. We never were that family that had family devotions. Okay. We just, like I said, we just lived it in front of them, and we'd pray with them before bed, and we'd pray if they fell and scraped their knee and, different things like that, or bumped their head. We lived our Christianity and our relationship with the Lord every day. I mean, that's just what we did. But we didn't intentionally sit down and study the Bible together and talk about, what's, Jesus he wants to do this or this for you, or let's read this scripture together. Tell me what you think.
Now, did your parents do that for you?
Oh, no.
Okay. So, I mean, it's not like
but they weren't anywhere in this kind of a relationship with the Lord.
And you know what, though? Religious. But I know people that sat for hours and decades with children, and they still kind of went their own way. And so that's why you see, I believe that, I mean, I keep finding this true every day, that the enemy immediately goes to a mom and messes with her as far as her mommying of her position as being the mom, even when we are, about ready to give birth, and we're like, should I go to the hospital now? Should I do this? Should I do that? And, there's so many questions that you're having when you first go into labor. It's like, should I be freaking out now? Should I go? Should I go now? I mean, and I believe that's when the enemy really starts coming in and starting to mess with you, the mom, because he's saying, well, if you don't do this, you could screw up your baby for the rest of your life. And so you are so afraid to make a mistake with your kids that I believe that's when the enemy comes right in as a parent and tries to scare you. Yeah. So he can also work the other way and scare you in with saying well, if you don't put the hammer down every day, your kids are not going to be obedient. And then he can go to the other complete opposite end, and mess with somebody too. Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. And so there's just all kinds of ways. And so we just have to hear from the Holy Spirit. I mean, yes, I always go back to this. It's like, we've got to hear from God. And you're right. They were your first congregation. Sure. Right. And so that's what the Lord kept telling me. You want, because he showed me some dreams and stuff I was going to be doing, but he kept telling me it's not now. It's later. This is your congregation. Don't step into an arena anywhere until this is done. Yeah. And so I didn't. And trust me, I wanted to put my toe in many things, but I was like, I am too afraid actually to do that.
Yeah. And that's good. I wish I would have had that kind of mindset raising my kids. I believe it would be different today with our relationship.
So what can you tell moms out there that, might be the traveling, the traveling missionaries and out doing all the work for the Lord? What would you give them advice for all their kids?
Well, I think just like what we've been saying is do treat them as if they were your congregation from the get-go, because, if we can not only demonstrate real, I don't say real Christianity because that sounds religious, but just our real vibrant relationships with the Lord and keep our kids in the Word with us, do it together and keep it real. Not just before they go to bed or not just Christmas and Easter. I mean, we would kind of fall into that, sit down, make the kids sit before we open presents and Dad wants to read the Christmas story and the kids are like, just wanting to open my gifts. But, that's not the only time we did things, but just keeping it really real and minister to them and really pray for your kids, because God knows their intricacies. He knows us inside and out. He knows our kids inside and out. He knows what their gifts are, what their callings are. And, those are some things I wish that I could redo, is just to put more emphasis on those things. And, we were always really grateful to have good churches to base out of, that had great kids, for our kids to play with. But, that's where they learned a lot of bad things too.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So on that, we're going to stop. We're going to do this in 2 parts because I want to hear about that. Well, thank you guys for watching. This is your lunch break. So, hey, listen, if moms only have like 15 minutes at times just to listen to something and then move on. Check this out. Please go send this to other people. Share this video with other people, because this is really important stuff. And all these videos that we've done, this is about the unpopular mom. This is what God has given me to share with you. So that would help you navigate through your life of being a parent. So I love you guys. We'll see you next time. We're going to have her come back